Live from the shed. Yeah. It's Southern Fried Soundstage, you know we rock hard. Baby, out here, that's the only way. We're bringing all the good times. Southern Fried Soundstage, if you want to get crazy. Out here, that's the only way. We're bringing all the good times. All the good times. Southern Fried Soundstage. Southern Fried Soundstage. Southern Fried Soundstage. Southern Fried Southern Fried Soundstage. 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 Southern Fried
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Southern Fried Soundstage or Southern Nation Soundstage. We're different ways on different platforms, but we're glad to be here. Kind of redoing some of the backgrounds and things as well. I'm Dave, the Cornbread Man. We've been a little over a week. Lots going on in our life, but a little bit over a week since the last show. We don't like that. I was hoping to have someone join me tonight, but I don't think they were. I think they're feeling like it. Anyway, love to talk music. A lifetime of listening and going, and I only played a little bit. I never was a great player or anything like that, but love music. And we kind of started out going through some bands, and didn't want to bog down too much. And you can get in those things and stay in them for a while. So we kind of switched it up a little bit. But I've always shown the 3 albums from my vault. They are from my vault. And then we'll talk about a year in music. And then we're continuing our discussion about Fleetwood Mac. Big fan. Big fan. I've really been enjoying, by the way, the Lindsey Buckingham videos that he's doing. I don't know if you've seen these. Follow his social media. He's an amazing player. What a picker. I mean, the guy's a genius. But he's been doing these videos where they show him young people picking one of his more difficult songs. And he listens to it and he kind of gives comments. And he's been very gracious. It's got to be hard. I mean, that's your song, but you're listening to other people do it. I think it's great that he did that. I remember once during the horrible COVID time when they couldn't play, and a lot of artists started doing shows from home, their studios, stuff like that. And one of the things I really enjoyed during that time was and it was must have had a lot of attention because I was trying to watch it on my phone. I was doing my job traveling around and I couldn't watch it. I really only got to really watch it the next day because you could buy it, then you could watch it several times, for the next few days. But he was coming from one of his studios, probably a home studio, if I remember right, and just him playing his songs and then talking about each song. I will pay every day and twice on Sunday to hear artists do that. I love to hear the background of a song and talk about difficulties they had in writing it or playing it or what it's about, what it means to them. I love that kind of stuff. And so anyway, I don't know if you've seen that, but follow Lindsey Buckingham on because we're talking about Fleetwood Mac. So this is appropriate. And a lot of people are just huge Lindsey Buckingham fans. Of course, Fleetwood Mac in a greater sense. We're going to talk about, and there has been a thaw, seemingly, and he has said this. There's been a thaw. Of course, him and Stevie have had their differences over the years, but she led the charge to get him fired from the band. But he's done some picking around, I think, with Mick Fleetwood, and there's been a little, I guess, an olive branch extended. He says, nobody knows the future, but he believes that there will be something in the future that they can do some work with, and so he hopes anyway, and I would too, especially with Christine McVie having passed. It should remind you that life is short, and if you only have time, carrying bitterness and unforgiveness is not healthy anyway. And it seems to be a good place. He's happy. They had as we know, a very dynamic relationship. He did some things he shouldn't have done. I'm sure a lot of those things were fueled by drugs, but them together as a band was magical, very magical. All right, 3 albums from Dave's vault. Who is it? Oh my goodness, what's his name? They have the show on Satellite Radio, 3 Chords and the Truth, or something like that. The bass player from Guns N' Roses. I just went blank. See his face, I can't think of his name, and I know it. Anyway, it's not that. It's 3 albums from Dave's vault. These are real albums. They have a story behind them usually. Now, in the vault might not be, and I've said this before, my best friend was murdered, and we always traded music, and we some things I had when he was murdered and some things he had, his collection disappeared. I have no idea what happened to it. I was thankful I held on to some that were very, very special to me. This album was a monster. I showed you a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, an album by ZZ Top that really introduced me to ZZ Top. And we used to wear, and we're talking about albums, these are real albums. Of course, I had CDs, 8-tracks, cassettes, digital down. I've done all that, but the specialness is the album. And we wore that album out along with some AC/DC and Def Leppard and Rod Stewart. A lot of albums. We had a lot of interest. But in a great year, because any year that this album comes out, and I was trying to remember exactly what year it was. I want to make sure I had that right. I was thinking 1 year off. I guess I'll probably listen to it more in '84. But in 1983, this wonderful album, and I saw them not on this tour, but the next tour. The wonderful group, ZZ Top. This album was a monster. Many of the albums of that time frame, as we've mentioned before, were benefited greatly by video. This album certainly was. It came along at a great time. ZZ Top had that Texas boogie sound, and they just awesome albums. This album was a little more polished, a little more clean, but a great album. All these songs, think about them on on the radio, the videos, they stand out to you. I mean, Give Me All Your Lovin', Got Me Under Pressure. Every one of these songs they're historical, they're magical. Sharp Dressed Man, I Need You Tonight, I Got the Six, Legs. What album starts off with side 2 with a song as big as Legs? Thug, TV Dinners. Actually, TV Dinners is one of my favorites on the albums, even above some of their songs. Dirty Dog, If I Can Only Flag Her Down, and Bad Girl. This album was produced by Bill Ham. Engineers were Terry Manning and Bob Ludwig, names you should remember. And all the songs were written by the band, Gibbons Hill Beard, and again was released in 1983. And I always here's the back. If I'm looking at the back, I was looking at that. I don't remember what I paid for this. Sometimes the stickers are still on them. I do. I don't remember. And the insert. Oh yes, I'd forgotten that was on the insert. Sometimes you forget. There's nothing on the back of the insert, but we got the car. Classic. The album, which was played, it wasn't even put back in there properly. It looks pretty good. This would have received a lot of airplay, but we were good with our albums. We had a we all the turntables back at that time. They had the little rubber, shock absorbers and stuff to keep the needle from jumping. But we went beyond that. We did extra stuff. And if somebody come in and made one skip, we really got onto them. We took care of our records. And so you see that Warner Brothers there. It's in good shape. It's a good album. It's in the vault. I most likely bought this. Uh, this probably was bought in a record store that I used to buy a lot of records at. It's been going for decades. It was not a well-named one. It was a local one, but I used to go down there and it was called the Record Shop, if I remember right. And I bought a lot of albums for the cheap. Even new releases were like $9.99, $10 or something. That was the new releases, many cheaper. So I bought a lot of albums that were very affordable. But the great ZZ Top, the Eliminator album, what a great video, great album. It has not lost anything over time, not one thing. Some albums they just seem old and dated. Songs, I mean, not this. ZZ Top, legendary. Dusty Hill, rest in peace. Another album from the vault, and this one is open. Some of my albums are not open. I bought some and I never opened them, and they're a little dusty. They've been put up. They're in the vault. They're a little dusty. I listened to this band a lot. I bought everything that they put out for several years. I like the band. I like the lead singer a lot. I follow him a little bit on social media. Sometimes he gets a little preachy, liberal wise, and I don't care for that. One of the best harmonies of a band ever, I think. I used to work with a guy, and I've said this. I used to work with a guy who had a lot of cassette tapes, and he had them in order. He could reach behind him because we had the boxes, had the double side, and he was the same way. He had all the music from this band, and he could reach back, and he was like OCD or something. But he had every album or CD, cassette tape in a certain order. So he'd say, "What do you want to listen to today?" And if I threw something up, if he had it, he'd say, and he'd say, "Let me turn it over. This is on the middle row, third in." I mean, the guy was amazing. Had a great sound system in a convertible. He was a little bit older than me. Was in college, getting a business degree. We worked at a restaurant, and sometimes it's crazy. Here we were. I was 17 at the time, 16, 17. And he was probably 19, 20. But we'd be doing bank drops at night, thousands of dollars into the bank, me and him. And we'd just go joyride. There was no drink or anything. Just we'd go make the drop. I was always nervous, going there. I mean, we wouldn't get out on Saturday night till like midnight or something, So we're doing a bank drop at like 12:30 or something like, make sure nobody's around, and we would just look out for each other. We'd ride around and listen to music. And this album was a classic, big seller, just like Eliminator. And it is, yes, Huey Lewis and the News 4. They don't get much bigger than this. And these songs stand the test of time, too. Side 1, Jacob's Ladder, Stuck With You, well known. Whole Lot of Lovin', Down It All For My Baby, Hip to Be Square. I heard that just the other day on satellite radio. I Know What I Like. I Never Walk Alone. Forest for the Trees Naturally. Simple as that. But this was a time frame when they owned the charts. Great harmonies. I like the band behind him. Great stuff. But and you can see the back. There's the back of the album. It was opened. Like I said, I was checking to make sure. The insert has a lot going on, and I always like that. So it's kind of like, one of the things I really like, and I've said this, whether it's a CD or whatever it is, cassette, it doesn't matter to me, is that they put the lyrics on there. And I like that. So there's the insert with the lyrics. And on the back, you get the information about the album, the group shot. And so you get all that. So definitely had some songs on here that made it way up in the charts. Whether they hit number one, I don't remember that. But this was an album that I really liked. I love their sound. I still listen to them. I love a lot of their songs. I mean, one of my favorites is "I Want a New Drug." I love that song. Now it's in the vault, but I certainly did not buy this album. Not to say I would. And it's the first time that I've showed you in the vault, and it's very special. I've never actually pulled this out. Wow, I've never seen this. I'll show it to you in a minute. The insert. I got to put the album back in it. It's nice to be able to say that. When I married my wife, she had just got a big sound system. I loved it. It was awesome. You know, a turntable. You could play cassettes. I think even CDs. Massive speakers. I loved it. You know. She was telling me her dad was he was killed in a trucking accident when she was 13 years old. So, you know, without going into details that probably shouldn't be shared, you know, a lot of times vultures come in. Her dad had a really good country music, and this is the first time I covered a country music collection. He loved traditional, older country. Me and him would have got along. And some of the albums come up missing. Is my understanding, I may have the story wrong, but my understanding is they went to a flea market and found a bunch of them. And they knew they were his. He always initialed the albums. So what I said I said, she was like, I don't want to see nothing happen to them. I mean, nobody really cares. So I told her that as long as I lived, I would protect them for her. I've never played them. To me, it's just something that needs to be left alone. So it's really Dave's fault, but it's my wife's fault as well. And he would always initial his initials, JB, they called him that, on the front. And this is one of them, and this is the legendary The Legend Lives Anew, Hank Williams with Strings. What an amazing album. You can see right here his initials. So when they went to the flea market, and somebody had got those about it, I said, hey, stolen merchandise. You're giving them back. Well, I understand. It has a little story on the back. Got the name again, the title. It tells the songs. This was released in, let's see if I can find it quickly. If it has it, sometimes they don't list that. And make sure they list all the people involved, of course. I don't see that on here. Let me see if the insert has it. But anyway, that's the back, the Hank Williams album. And this album, by the way, it has Kalijah, I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, A House Without Love, Wedding Bells, I'm Sorry for You, My Friend, A Picture from Life's Other Side, Side 2, Lovesick Blues, You Win Again, Let's Turn Back the Years, They'll Never Take Her Love From Me, Men with Broken Hearts, I Don't Care If Tomorrow Never Comes, was the songs on this album. And again, it was never played by me. He played it a lot, undoubtedly. I want to tell you what, he took care of his albums. I never met the man, by the way. She was 13 when he died. I didn't meet her till, let's see. She would have been about 23, if I remember right. We dated 2 years and then married. I was 21 and she was 24. She'd been 22 and she was 24. If I remember right. I remember she's 25. I get that wrong. It has this one has, interesting, I guess it's a record company promotion. So on the insert, you get all that stuff on the outer cover. On the insert, I've never seen this. They actually advertise for other people on the label, I guess. So you get people like Roy Orbison and Connie Francis. And of course, Hank Williams Jr. himself. What else? They've got others on. Well, you've got Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. Lou Christie, Herman's Hermits. I used to listen to them. David Rose, the Royalettes. So you see some of the groups on the insert. I've never seen that before. And it's a good way to advertise, though. Interesting. So, in this one, that's what it is. MGM release. It's never, I was going to see if I can see on here because they don't show the year. I have no idea what year it was. So anyway, that's three albums from Dave's vault. Never played. The others, by me. I'm sure he played them. You don't buy. I mean, I have some that never were never played for whatever reason. I don't remember, but I don't see a year on it. Um, so anyway, they they pull a collection around, and of course these songs go back a way, but I don't know what year it was. It was released. Billboard magazine music editor Paul Ackerman, I've heard of him. He gave the write up on this album. So let's see if it's right here. Some of this writing is so small. Golly. Progressive don't want to work with that. I don't see it. Anyway, there's probably a code there. I don't know. Probably a code. That's 3 albums from Dave's Vault. If you'd like to feature 3 albums from your vault, send me a video and or send me pictures or whatever you want to do. I love it. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun to look into the history of your music collection and things that kind of end up there that have been there for maybe a long time, and you just kind of forget that they're there. I guess I was pulling out stuff tonight. I never know what I'm going to pick, and I always just kind of I'll pull something out and I'm like, ooh. I mean, there were some I put back that I really wanted to bring. Sometimes a second selection of a group that I really like. I was looking at one of those tonight. Another group I'd never covered on here from the vault, and the third one, I don't know if I actually looked at the third. I'm almost certain I did. I looked at about 10 albums before I selected, so I don't remember what the others were, but because I really locked in on, I went by them because I wanted to cover one of these country albums. We've got Loretta Lynn. We've got a bunch. I don't remember how many we have, but whatever they were, I said, I'll take care of them for you. They're there if you ever want them. It's your dad's, and they just stay put up. It means a lot to both of us, but it certainly means a lot to her. That was her dad because of what happened. We just kind of put that up. It's like a shrine. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's like a little shrine to her dad. So pretty cool. All right, we're going to look at tonight the best-selling albums or some of the music. We won't get to them all, but the year tonight we're going to look at is 1992. Now, in 1992, music was going through a change. A couple of weeks ago, we looked at 1983. On the other end, in the decade previous, early on in that, we looked at 73. We've looked at different years. I think we've looked at 87, 83, 73, now 92. Started going 91, went to 92. I love the 80s. I didn't like all the music, but I love the 80s. A lot of great albums, big hair, big music, melodic rock, the power ballad. Some things out of the 70s that kind of started out the decade, then they faded away, and then you had British New Wave. You had all these different things that were going on. Heavy metal was starting to come back into. So by the end of towards the end of the decade, it was just amazing. Just a reinvention of rock itself. When we get into the 90s, the early 90s, that wave was still going to a degree. It was starting to slow down, and you'll see some things introduced here. Really, to almost the middle of the decade, with some really powerful stuff being released. After that, for me, it wasn't as great. Some of these will not be; they won't just be rock, but I'll mainly look at rock. But some of them will be all over the place because we're looking at. And we're going to give you an idea of sales here. It's amazing when you look at sales. Nowadays, they can't get sales for albums. The albums are, it's all about downloads and single sales and album sales. But this is interesting. Still a lot of albums being sold. And I'm glad they're coming back to a degree. Album Day out there. And all the bands put out the Blu-rays and the different top of album colors. And so there's a lot of energy into that and going back to that. Number one on the list for 92 in sales was the Bodyguard soundtrack. That was huge. All the songs off of that. This album sold 45 million albums. 45 million albums. That's unbelievable. I think that outpaces Rumors, which is one of the best-selling albums of all time. It still sells. It's crossed a lot of musical genres. A lot of different types of people would have bought this album. It was a massive hit. Whitney in her heyday, and just amazing. Number two, ABBA, Gold, the greatest hits. Wow, 32 million 32 million in sales. Wow, crazy. By the way, the overall rank for that Bodyguard was, they say overall rank is 4 here. And this is all time overall rank. In 92, number one in all of the 90s. The Bodyguard is number one. Number four overall, all time. Man, ABBA was number two in 92, number seven in the 90s, and it ranks as the number 20th of all time. Pretty dang impressive. I don't think I bought this album, but I definitely listened to it. I still play a lot of it on the air. The Unplugged by Eric Clapton. That was 26 million in sales. Of course, number three in 92, 15 in the 90s, and 39th overall. Huge album. I love the sound. I love him in that. And there was, of course, a couple of selections that get played a lot. REM still just killing it right now. Automatic for the People, 18 million in sales, 36 in the 90s, 97 overall rank. REM from Georgia. Kenny G, 13.2 plus. Comes at number five in sales. Breathless. That was a big album. Huge. The music was being played everywhere. Garth Brooks, The Chase, 10.5 million. Ranked 241 overall, all time, 98 in the 90s. Number six, massive hits. Garth Brooks. Billy Ray Cyrus. He wasn't just a one-song gimmick. He sold a lot of albums, and he's still out there, I guess, making some money. Some Gave All, 10.4 million in sales. Ranks 245 overall, 100 even for the 90s. Now, an introduction of, I don't remember how long they've been out at this point, but you started seeing some new bands, the so-called grunge. And I don't really even know what grunge is, and people just label it that. Some music I really liked from that time frame, some I did not. Even though there was a lot of crazy drugs going in, and there was a lot of strange imagery. The videos got really weird for me, but some of the music was definitely really good. Stone Temple Pilots, STP, great core album, 8.3 million. That's number 340 overall, all time. Massive album. It did good all over the world. I just wanted to look up and see here just for a second if they show me. Let's see if I can look at that. They want me to accept something. I'm not going to do that. But I wanted to look up a little deeper on that. We'll go back to it. But Stone Temple Pilots, big album, huge. Then Mariah Carey, the MTV Unplugged. This was the decade of the Unplugged for MTV. Well, they still actually did some music, 7 million in sales, big album. ZZ Top hit, so 6.5. They even in the 90s they were still really concerts were big, sales were big, did really good. They're still out there doing it, but obviously they're aged now, and they play smaller venues. Arena rock for them is over unless they're playing with a lot of bands. But hey, these guys, they've aged and they've been around for a long, long time. Alan Jackson, a lot about living and a little about love, 6.3 for that album from Alan Jackson. A lot of country here. George Strait was still kicking it, 6.1 million pure country soundtrack. Another movie soundtrack there. I remember the movie. Four Non Blondes, was not a fan. Not knocking them, just never was a fan. But they sold 6 million even so far. Bigger, better, faster, more. Number 14, band that I really like. I actually talked about this when I did the Def Leppard series, was Adrenalize. Now remember, this is 92. Steve Clark died in 91. This album probably did not get the full credit that it deserved. Some say it was rushed. Some say they could have done better. I bought the album on midnight sale. It was a really hard album in a lot of ways because we were mourning Steve Clark so much. This album has still sold 6 million overall. I think 3 million in that time frame, but overall it has rose to 6 million. Of course, Let's Get Rocked was on this album. The song White Lightning to Steve Clark. All these songs were played by Phil Collins. He tried to think how Steve would have played the parts. He was pushing to be a solo guitarist in the band. They said no. In 92 as well, Vivian Campbell's announced as the second guitarist. He's still with them. He's been with the band longer than Steve. He's double the time I think Steve was ever in the band. He's a great member. Went through his own personal battle. Seems like that's a problem for Leppard with the cancer, but he's survived. He's done great. And of course, they did the Queen, um, you know, how would they call that? But anyway, that was Vivian's coming out party. And they played three songs, two by them, and they played Queen song. And members of Queen were on the stage with them. It's a massive, massive concert. It's a good album. I was listening the other day. Leopard has been doing a residency. They just finished it up. I think they're going to South America or something now. But they did a residency in Vegas, and it was great. I got to see part of the show. I got to go back and look at the rest of it. But they actually, for the first time, I think, maybe since that day, and I don't even know if they played it then, but maybe they did. They've been going back and playing a lot of deep cuts, stuff they haven't played in maybe forever, like Coming at You Live from the Pyromania album. They played this song, and of course they've always included Steve in the set in the concerts. They still sell T-shirts and stuff with him on it, but he's always on the video boards. They always honor him. They played the song, and it hit them very hard. And it was said that it hit Joe really hard. He's trying to sing this song. It's a haunting song. It really is. But they said as he went off stage, I will never sing that song ever again. He couldn't. It just hit him too hard. And that's amazing. 92 to 2026, and that's how much they miss their buddy. And I thought that was pretty powerful. Roxette comes in at number 15, also 6 million. AC/DC Live, 5.9 million in the year 1992. Michael Bolton, I was never a big fan, but he sold a lot of records. 5.6. Bon Jovi's Keep the Faith still stands the test of time. That song I hear all the time. I like this song. But the album, Keep the Faith, 5.5 plus in sales. Their overall rank for all time, 666. Somebody has to have the spot, I guess. Dr. Dre, The Chronic, number 19 for that year. Rage Against the Machine, 5.3. Sade. I like some of Sade's. Love Deluxe, 5.3. Vince Gill, I Still Believe in You, 5.3. Dirt, Alice in Chains, another one of those newer rivals. They really burst on the scene. Always liked Alice in Chains. I don't like the lyrics, for Man in the Box. So I'll just be honest. But great, obviously they had some problems. The singer did. I saw them in Knoxville, Tennessee, with Ozzy and Suicidal Tendencies. Some of these here I've not seen. Of course, I've seen Leopard. I've never seen Garth or any of those, and AC/DC I never saw. Thank you, Broski, for the pumping those in there. Yes, but we're looking at 92. Alice in Chains, Dirt, massive album. It was number 23 for the year, 262 for the decade. Winona, she put out, so much solo. The Judge broke up, and she did 5.2. That family has so much drama, so much hurt, so much pain. Crazy. But the Judge were magic together. She has an amazing talent. She struggled with her weight and addictions and many things. This is honestly screwed up family. I mean, God bless them. It's very hard. Her and her sister are not close. It's a weird dynamic. Of course, the mom died horribly. Depression and all the things she was going through. Gloria Estefan, greatest hits, made the charts 25th. Arrested Development, 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life of. Sold 4.7 million thus far. Lionel Richie back to the front, huge 80s and 90s. Let's see, Blind Melon clocks in here. Criss Cross from Atlanta, totally crossed out, 4.3 million. Mary Chapin Carpenter, I was not really a fan. Come on. Madonna Erotica came out. She still sold 4.1 million on that album. TLC checks in. Another band that went through some tragedy. The Gin Blossoms. Was not a huge fan. It's okay. Not a big fan. 4 million, a little over 4 million. Annie Lennox. Diva. Remember that album? I may have bought that on a cassette tape. Never had the album. John Cicada, basically, and the John Cicada album. The Aladdin soundtrack, almost 3.7 million sold. They keep pumping out Jimi Hendrix albums, but they made 3.6 million in sales on the Ultimate Experience in 1992. Who else? Bruce Springsteen, Human Touch, 3.5 million. Queen, Classic Queen. I did have this album. Almost certain I have it on an album. I don't know if I still have it, but I had it on an album, and I may have had it on cassette tape as well. The Classic Queen, 3.5 million. One of them was me. Mary J. Blige, Elton John, The One. Not a big album for me. I don't even remember buying it. I like the song. He still sold 3.4. I used to go to Atlanta down on a lot, and I would go down on Peachtree Road, and Elton John used to live there, across, kind of a diagonally across from I think that was a Turtles Records, and I used to go in there. It was one of the record stores I would go in when I would go to Atlanta. And I was in there one day, and I was talking to one of the guys, because I'd go down there. This is the days, I would go down there. I'd make the excuse to go to Atlanta to go look at records, and I'd buy a concert ticket while I was there at the Ticketmaster. So a lot of these guys have seen me come in, fairly often. I mean, literally 2 or 3 times a month. I was in Atlanta going to these records. So they've seen me. So I was talking to one of the salesmen, and he was telling me that Elton John had just came in like the day before or something like that. And Elton John's always an impulse buyer. He buys tons when he goes to buy. He just buys and buys and buys. His job was follow him around that day and keep up with all the stuff that he was buying. So he just bought tons of stuff. And of course, he's went back to England, if I remember right. But at that time, he lived in Atlanta, and he lived in the penthouse of an apartment, a ritzy apartment building, and he had the whole top floor or whatever, But they said he would come in there all the time, and he always bought like 50 to 100 CDs, albums, whatever, when he would come in. So he would come in however often he come in, he would buy a lot of music. I don't remember that band. Celine Dion clocked in with Celine Dion. In Vogue, I remember them, boy. In Vogue, the Funky Divas. Garth Brooks again, Beyond the Season. Clocked in at 3.2. The man was owning it back then. Reba McEntire, It's Your Call, 3.1 million. Who else? I've skipped a couple because I just did it. It's not even worth it. Amy Grant, the Christmas album. Remember that album? Life's a Dance, John Michael Montgomery, big album, huge. Boomerang soundtrack, another movie. Well, they made a lot of the soundtracks to the movies were big in the 80s and 90s. Huge. 3 million plus in sales thus far. Bruce Springsteen, Lucky Town. I don't remember ever having that. Who else? Neil Young, Harvest Moon. I don't remember that album. There was actually a couple of selections that weren't bad. I'm not a huge Neil Young. I like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, but his stuff's okay. All right. Don't like the political crap, but Harvest Moon. There was some good stuff there. Maybe the last really good thing he ever did, to be honest. Katie Lang, Soul Asylum, Genesis, great album. Live, The Way We Walk, Volume 1, The Shorts. Who else here? Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, big album. Almost 2.5 million, but 2.465 million. That ranks 1841 overall. 64 for the year, not bad, Dave. They have a new album out, Kicking It, says it's the last one ever from Megadeth. It's a big album, Countdown to Extinction. Bobby Brown, clocks in. Who else? Ugly Kid Joe, America's Least Wanted. Oh, it was a fun little band. I like some of their stuff. The remake they did of Cats in the Cradle, wow. I actually prefer it to the original, and the original is awesome. It always makes me really, really think about my kids and stuff, and my grandkids. Foreigner, The Very Best and Beyond. So 2.3. Neil Diamond, Greatest Hits. A lot of Greatest Hits coming out. Tori Amos, remember her? I guess she's still around. I don't know, but she was big then. Little Earthquakes. 2.2. I actually thought that album was higher up the rank, but it was very well received. The Beastie Boys, Check Your Head. 2.2 million in 92. You like the Beastie Boys? Vulgar Display of Power. Pantera. I was not a huge fan or nothing like that, but a lot of people were. Freddie Mercury, of course, was making money off him after he died. Who else? Really quick, because we got to talk about Fleetwood Mac. The Neil Diamond Christmas album. No, I didn't buy it. Pantera clocking in that year as well. Cowboys from Hell, another huge album. Tears for Fears, Greatest Hits. The Black Crowes. You know, I was in Atlanta watching a lot of bands around that time that the Crows came out. I was actually following a couple other bands. I never got to see them in the clubs and stuff. They was already kind of, was kind of making it, and so they kind of was out of Atlanta a lot. But I was watching other up and coming bands. Atlanta's a great musical city, great city for music. And I used to go down, and there was a couple of bands that we followed. Some that were just probably always going to be forever. Some we thought forever Atlanta, local scene. But then others made it, like Driving and Crying. And this band was called Chain Gang, if I remember right. I thought they were going to make it. I love their sound. They used to be all over 96 Rock back in the day, if you remember 96 Rock. Let's see here. White Zombie? We clocked in at number 84. Ice Cube, 85. John Anderson, 86. Travis Tritt, Trouble, 88. I bought that album. Saw him in concert. It was probably that year as well. It might have been the year before. I can't remember. It could have been the Trouble Tour. I'm not sure. But me, my wife, a friend from work, and a lifelong friend who checks into the show all the time. We went to that show. Marty Stewart, they were on tour around that time. Nirvana, Incesticide, Elton John Greatest Hits, 10,000 Maniacs. I remember that album. Confederate Railroad. You remember Chris McDaniel was in with me, was in the band at that time. And then left, obviously went into ministry. I mean, he about had to for his health, but he started serving the Lord. Let's see if anything else stands out really quick. That was getting through top 100. Let's see. The Live at Wembley album, when it came in at 102. The Police Greatest Hits came out. A lot of greatest hits. Prince Love Symbol was out that year. Rock Said Fred. They came out at 114 that year. Bare Naked Ladies clocked in. All these albums are still selling over 1 million albums. I added all those up. It's a heck of a lot of album sales that these are. Red Hot Chili Peppers, What Hits, 1.4 million. Wilson Phillips, they were all over MTV, almost 1.4 million. Share Greatest Hits. AC/DC Live Collector's Edition. They always was putting out music. The Cure, Wish, 1.2. Melissa Etheridge, Never Enough, 1.1 million. It's amazing how many. Even the Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alvin and the Chipmunks. The soundtrack for The Last of the Mohicans got 1.1 million in sales so far from that year. Lori Morgan, Watch Me. I loved Lori Morgan back in the day. She sold 1.1 million. Mark Chestnut, Long Legs and Short Stories, 1.1. Nine Inch Nails, Broken, same. Wah, wah, wah. Tanya Tucker, Can't Run From Yourself. She sold 1.1 million on that. Trisha Yearwood, Futurely Be Married to Garth, 1.1. Weird Al Yankovic, Off the Deep End. I remember that. As he's recreating their Nirvana look. Yanni, 1.1 million. Amazing. I've skipped a few, and I never knew they sold that much. The Sister Act soundtrack, just a little over 1 million. Harry Connick Jr. that year did well. Aaron Tippin, 1 million. Alabama, American Pride, 1 million. Clint Black, The Hard Way, Colin Ray, all these country albums still sold 1 million. George Thorogood, The Destroyers, Pam Tillis. Mo Money soundtrack sold 1 million that year. Faith No More, Angel Dust, just barely over 1 million, but they made it. Who's going to be the last one here? DC Talk, big Christian group, Free at Last, 1 million. George Strait, Holding On, 1 million. Indigo Girls, 1 million. Jackal, love them, 1 million. Jimmy Buffett, 1 million. Lee Greenwood sold 1 million that year, or has over the course of time. Michael W. Smith, 1 million. R. Kelly, 1 million. Randy Travis, 1 million. There's a lot of albums that have made that, the platinum mark. Ricky Van Shelton, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Mac Daddy, T-Bowling, 1 million. Uh, let's see here. Dropping off a little bit, but they're still selling 1 million. Now, the last one, I have no idea who they are. Sounds Japanese. And then the rest start falling under the 1 million. That's pretty amazing though. If you look at that year, an album I bought at 199, 800,000 was Three Sides to Every Story. Extreme, great album, great album. Nuno, man, love listening to that guy play. Extreme's a good band, very good band for my money. Ba-bum. Thanks for y'all listening in, dropping in tonight. All right, let's continue our Fleetwood Mac discussion. We kind of were dancing around that time right as Lindsey and Stevie were joining the band, and they put out an album, and then they just ripped the rails off of everything. Continue to this day. Of course, there was the fake band. We mentioned that briefly last time. While the band is touring Africa, listening to drum beats or something from tribal groups, they were the record company, the sleazy, low down, dirty dog record company, put out this fake band called Fleetwood Mac. Cost Mick Fleetwood a lot of money, but he got it all back. They returned in '74. That was all before the big edition of Buckingham Nicks. And that album, Buckingham Nicks, has had a resurgence. They reissued Buckingham Nicks. It's a great album. It really shows the early days of what they were doing songwriting wise. And it makes you wonder what they would have done just on their own if they'd never joined Fleetwood Mac. With their star trajectory, would they stay together longer? Would they? Who knows? They were definitely a coming band at that time. Would they have been as big as Fleetwood together? Probably not. And to bring in all those things together, you got some, and right before they joined, Bob Welch. That's kind of where we left off last week or 2 weeks ago. Bob Welch was in the band. God rest in peace, Bob Welch. But he had some really, Sentimental Lady. I really liked that song. Mystery to Me was, the heroes are hard to find. There was a little bit of buzz around them. It was not a bad bridge between the blues background of Fleetwood Mac and what Bob Welch brought on board with Christine McVie and the guys. They were. It was going to be very different later on, but he was definitely a nice bridge. And of course, Mick and Lindsey met at the legendary Sound City Studios on a little bit of a fluke. But the story goes, he asked him to join the band. He said, "It's me and Stevie, or it's no deal." And he said, "Sure." I think he said, "Let me check with Christine." She liked the idea of another girl in the band, and the rest is, as they say, history. Excuse me. So in '75, this newly formed band with a lot of different kind of influences and stuff came together, and they released an album simply called Fleetwood Mac. This was the 10th album. Amazing. They'd already done so many blues albums and stuff. It was the 10th album that they had made. It became a huge hit. It got to number one and sold over 7 million copies. So it definitely was not like a bad album. Who's my favorite 90s groups? Man, I'd have to think about that, to be honest. I mean, off the top of my head, I would say I was a huge for '90s groups that I really recognize in '90s. Alice in Chains was right there. I did like STP. I don't know if I consider it a '90s band, but Driving and Crying. I was a big fan of Driving and Crying. Still am. The Black Crowes. I like their stuff. I don't like the dude too much, but they made some great music. Those are the ones I think off the top of my head. So. Big song out of this album, Christian McVie's "Over My Head." Love that one. "Say You Love Me," and then Stevie Nicks and Rihanna, and then one of my favorite songs of all time by them, "Landslide," is a favorite of a lot of people. So in '76, they get a lot of things were breaking apart. Relationships were breaking apart. John and Christine, uh, Stevie and Lindsay. A lot of things. Mick was going through a divorce, I think, at the same time from Jenny. And along this time, a lot of people didn't know till his autobiography, he had an affair with Stevie Nicks. She was very angry with him that he ever released that information. It was a secret on the road relationship, but they did have an affair. So they had this big 7 million album, which it's amazing. They sold 7 million albums, but they got the big follow up. And man, they were going through a lot of the white powder around this time. I mean, a lot of the white powder. It's amazing they got done what they did. But the Rumors album comes out. There were more songs that should have been on it, but due to space of an album, they couldn't put them on there. One of those was kicked out with Silver Wings. You know what Silver Wings is the name of it? Silver Wings? By Stevie. She wanted to give the proceeds of that song to her mom. Was angry. Finally did it years later, but she was very upset for a long time about that. Four top 10 singles. Lindsey Buckingham's Go Your Own Way, which would really tick off Stevie when he sung that. But hey, they were rolling the dough. Stevie Nicks, number one, Dreams. Christine McVie's Don't Stop and You Make Loving Fun. And Buckingham's Secondhand News. I like that song. Nicks had Gold Dust Woman. And of course, The Chain. Oh, great song. Great song. And that was the only song that was written by all five band members. And to date, Rumors has sold over 19 million copies. I thought it was more than that, actually. 19 million copies in the U.S. alone. Maybe the rest of them are around the world. Oh, yeah, here it is. 40 million worldwide. I'd heard that number, 40 million worldwide. It is the 8th on the list of best-selling albums of all time. And, of course, they went on tour. And it was a massive hit. The relationships were all breaking apart. But they made a bunch of money. And so then you've sold 7. You've sold, at the time, 19. I don't know what it sold in that year, which was millions. They dwarfed anything they did, more than doubled what they had made with the Fleetwood Mac album. And then they come back in the studio, and it becomes a huge album. Lindsey is producing, and he just tried every little thing, and he kind of drove the rest of the band crazy. But it did have some big hits, and of course, the biggest thing was that Tusk song, and they used the USC marching band. They still have a connection to this all this time later. Christine McVie's "Think About Me" was also a big hit, and the 6.5 minute song by Stevie Nicks, "Sarah." There's a lot. I mean, Lindsey was trying to do it again. It's kind of like you have a masterpiece. You're trying to not do masterpiece deuce. You want something that goes beyond, stretches the band. I think Lindsey was trying to do that. He's kind of a mad scientist. He's a brilliant, but he's, as a producer, I mean, he drove them crazy. They said he would do all kinds of crazy stuff, singing, laying down on the floor, the way he mic'd certain things up. It's got a lot of good songs on it besides the hits, but there's obviously places I think there's probably misses, and it did not have. It's still a huge selling album. 4 million copies. And it's tough to have an album that sells 4 million copies and be considered a failure. But in many people's eyes, it was. But how do you live up to Rumors? I mean, he did off that wave of Rumors, but that's a good album, double album in its own. It did have some hits, and I do like the album. Is it as good as Rumors? No, but it should not be rated against or graded to Rumors. It was one of the best albums. It was one of their best albums. And anyway, 4 million copies, and they just, it was not a commercial success in that way. Is that not much off the album was played on the radio except for those hits, and this led to Lindsey leaving, and was he didn't come back for a while. And then he came back. I think it was Tango in the Night. When he came back, they recorded that. So, what an amazing time. They were 11 months on tour to promote Touch, which is a long time. They made a lot of money. Obviously, they run around the world. Some of the countries: U.S., Australia, New Zealand, Japan, France, Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands, and Britain. Uh, but you know, they just once you do something like that, you can just keep putting records out and touring, and that's what they did. Mirage come out in '82. Of course, Stevie Nicks started doing some of her solo work. Really like that stuff. Some of the other band members as well. Lindsey got into his solo stuff, writing songs for movies and stuff like that. So in that way, it can't be a failure because it led to all of them doing even more stuff. And the band's legendary status is always there. The Fleetwood Mac, even minus Christine McVie, announced right now they were going to do a worldwide tour. That tour would probably sell out. That's how strong that they are. But they went through their hard times, and yeah, the one album they did together was Tango in the Night '87, and after that it was people were in and out, especially Lindsay. But uh, I like the song "Little Lies," "Everywhere." These were good songs. Seven Wonders, "Big Love," "Family Man." I mean, it was a good album. I like that album. But then Stevie left, Mick, left, or Lindsey Buckingham left, and there were other people that came in. And isn't it funny that every time that Lindsey left, because of his finger picking style and playing the two kinds of chords, in one instrument, just they'd have to get two guitars to do it. Um, they usually got what's his name from Tom Petty band, I know who, Campbell, and there was another guy, a couple of other guys that were played, and the rest is kind of history. But what an amazing journey that they had, and what an amazing group of songwriters: Christine McVie, Lindsey Buckingham, and Stevie Nicks. Um, Magic in a bottle. They they have influenced until millions of people, and they were just a perfect together. They really were perfect. Their sound was great. They had everything you would want. Lindsey could play anything. He could finger pick anything. He could go heavy if he wanted to. He could go really light. He could play different styles, different genres. Mick, heavy drums, but knowing when to go light. The beautiful songbird Christine McVie and her work, and then the gypsy Stevie, and John McVie playing the back there and keeping the time with Mick. The one that stands out the least, but was very involved in recording processes. He kind of kept people going and moving. He was very much about the work, but very well respected bass player. Had his problems with the alcohol as well, but amazing. Fleetwood Mac. We'll choose a new band next week, but Fleetwood Mac, one of my favorites. They still play. They're played all over the radio as they should be. Obviously, they don't go back and get the blues standards. I went back and bought all that, the collection of all the blues uh, music that they did with Peter Green and all that. People that really like the classic Fleetwood Mac, they wouldn't even recognize them back then. The Buckingham Nicks reissue, we everybody should buy that, support it. It showed the talent that they already had, and they were on their way up. Mick was very smart to bring them in, both of them. Almost sight unseen. He heard some stuff he played. He invited him in. He needed a new guitar player, and he said, "Sure, we'll take Stevie as long as Christine's okay with it." And the rest, as they say, is history. And they are loved all over the world. You know, there's a lot of drama still. I mean, and I don't know what was going on that that when they're on stage and they said Lindsay tried to trip Stevie and all that, and um, that Christine got so mad at him. But you get over stuff. Christine and Lindsay made a nice album together before she died and before he was fired from the band, and it was a really good album. I liked the selections on there, and it was nice of them to be able to work together. And after he was fired, because this kind of, sort of all happened around that time, And she was the one member who said no, I don't want him fired. She was outvoted 3-1, and she felt bad about that, but she got to work with him, and they always had a good relationship. They always had a good relationship. I think after a few years, I mean, Nick and um, Lindsay worked together. Well, a lot of people don't know is Lindsay and his wife flip houses in California, and we're talking about multi-million-dollar deals. They'll buy something up. She is very good at the interior decorating and designing and all that. They will spend the money, make it into a masterpiece, and then sell it. So they make a lot of money. Of course, Lindsay had these health problems. Massive, he could have died, and then he was able to get through that and sing. But if as I said at the beginning, if you don't get a chance, if you get a chance, watch Lindsay's little things on his social X. I think is what I watched it on. Watch him as he um, listens to young people play songs of his, and he critiques that. Wonderful stuff. I like that. I like them all as individuals. I like them all together. And I don't know. I guess Lindsay's my favorite just because I like all this. I mean, he could go write something like the Vacation song, and then he writes some other stuff. I mean, he's just all over the place. His talent is immense. But he's a salty kind of guy. He's one of those. He's not a big smile all the time kind of guy. But he is at the same time very gracious. I'd say he's hard to work with at times because he is one of those definitely artists are hard to work together anyway, are hard to work with, and he has particular ideas of what he wants. He's one of those that sees the vision, and he has a hard time when other people can't see that. But they were very talented in their own right, and they proved it. And Stevie had the biggest solo career, undoubtedly, and she's had an amazing career. Worked with a lot of artists, Don Henley, Tom Petty. You know, she's a hit maker, and no matter what she puts her hands on, she's amazing. And it isn't amazing that Biscuit Boy met her. That cracks me up. I never knew that about him. Dude, I've never heard that story. Anyway, that's the Southern Nation Soundstage tonight. We'll be back hopefully next week, and we'll do it again. And it's a new month of shows now. April Fool's Day, which I never really celebrate that. First day of April, April showers. We're going to be hitting it really hard. Um, we're going to replay some interviews that we've had recently. I will be back in the morning. I missed this morning. I'm sorry. I was really up with my wife. I was really tired last night as we got done. I was sort of by myself early this in the night. People were home or at work, and we were late getting to bed. And I just couldn't drag myself up. So I apologize. Be back in the morning though with the Cornbread Man Morning Show. Tomorrow night, me and Biscuit Boy together. We'll definitely Cornbread Nation, probably Wolf Nation. Um, and then Friday night, we have another driver that's going to be on. We're going to be talking to another or someone connected to racing. Saturday's open. We do the Cornbread Man and Biscuit Boy. You too, Brusky. The Cornbread Man and Biscuit Boy morning show. And we'll get back in there. There's a lot of little shows that's going to click in. And I'm going to get back to the history show this week. We're going to bring back the Southern Fried Vent. I haven't done that in a while before the split. Right around the time of split was the last time we did it. I'm going to bring that show back, and we've got so many things cooking. We're trying to get a lot of things in place. We've got some new shows and features that we want to do, or additions to shows. So thanks for your support. We appreciate it. I want to say I really appreciate the kindness of Claude Haggerty, to the graciousness that he is. He's reached out again. This guy is amazing as a person who shows race teams or whoever how to be fully funded for sponsorship. He's an amazing guy. Our friend Terry Calhoun from down in what was Terry, Toccoa, Georgia. He's put us on the side of his truck with these other sponsors. He didn't have to do that. Such an amazing guy. We have a great relationship going forward. Me and him talk basically every day, and he's just such a fine fellow. And there are others as well. We appreciate every one of them. They will all be back on at some point, and we have many more coming. And we have developed great Facebook pages for the Dirt Report, the Racing Show, the Southern Patriots Podcast, and Wolf Nation. All have their own Facebook pages, and we're growing those so we can put exclusive stuff there as well. But hey, thanks a lot for being here tonight. God bless you. Don't think I'll be back on. I'm a little tired, so I didn't do but one show today, but we'll hammer it tomorrow, big time. And we'll see you soon. Let's get the music keyed back up. If we get feeling wild, I'll come back and do just late news. The president was speaking tonight. I didn't get to listen to it, so I want to go hear that. It's another reason I probably won't come back on. I want to hear his words tonight and what he had to say about Iran. I've heard some information from what he was supposed to say. I want to go pull that up and listen to it and check out some sports as well. Spend time with my wife. God bless you all. We appreciate your support. Pray for us, and we'll pray for you.
Southern Fried live from the shade.